Oh, it's a little bit late and it looks like I'm regressing, but I swear I was just on vacation. This was never going to be earlier. I'm still here. I'm not abandoning you. March wrap up time. I read a lot of books. I'm back. So, I learned that I'm not washed in the month of March and can still read fast. Well, it was a little bit in the start of March, of April as well. I read 9 books in the month of March, and most of them were 4 stars because there was just this long streak of a lot of authors who were very safe bets. 2 of them were rereads. One was a book club read that was just really good. That was the only one that was like a risk this month, if I'm being completely honest. But we've got the street. As much as I would love to just keep reading and every book be like strong 4 stars, unfortunately that will not happen. And also didn't happen with the first book I read this month, and that was the Silmarillion. I didn't actually read it in March. I just finished it in March. I'd been reading it for quite a long time, a little bit in the background. So I finally got my full nerd card. This one would be more like 3.5 stars for me. It obviously had its moments. The Silmarillion was pretty mixed for me. Obviously stylistic. Like, it just has chapters that aren't that interesting. And also, I found the resolution of what I would say is, like, the main conflict. Which, it's funny, like, I didn't know that Silmarillion had a main conflict. And yes, by the way, if the book just disappeared, it's because the recording I originally had decided to eat itself. So I'm recording this again. And I'm trying to remember what I said. So I'm equally harsh on the Silmarillion both times. I didn't know there was a main conflict in the Silmarillion. I thought it was more broad, like Fire and Blood style. There's like multiple books that only one of which is the Silmarillion. But the Silmarillion part, which is most of the book, is a lot more focused than I thought it was. And I just, like, when it ended, the resolution was just kind of like, oh, I guess that's how it ends. Okay, sick. So, despite having a ton of really fantastic chapters, I like Lord of the Rings way more. Like, it's not even close. Fun enough, the Lord of the Rings section of this I thought was really good. Now, it might have been really good because reading it, I connected it with the emotional experience of reading the Lord of the Rings. But the point is, Lord of the Rings clears, and unfortunately, I can't be the hipster who's like, the Silmarillion is the best Tolkien book. No, it's Lord of the Rings, Children of Húrin, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion. I have not read Beren and Lúthien or Fall of Gondolin or any of the other stuff. Next, I reread on audio Empire of Silence. But I'm going to hold up a physical book because I can't hold up an audiobook, obviously. And to flex my hardcover. That's worth this is my retirement fund. So, now I don't change scores on audio reread, because this is not speaking just for Empire of Silence. Everyone is more annoying on audio for me. I don't know why. It's just, every character. And I think I don't appreciate elegant language as much when I'm doing it on audio. But I still really liked it on audio. And think I would give it the same score. But I am going to reread Howling Dark physically, because I think that's the Sun Eater book that has the most potential for its score to go up. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good world. Seeing young Hadrian was kind of funny. I was rereading this, like I started at the same time I was rereading Disquiet Gods. And it isn't a spoiler to say that Hadrian gets really old in the series. You know this because you've got narrator Hadrian. And it was funny because I was picturing narrator Hadrian writing this and being like, I thought this was important when I was 18, so I'm gonna write about it. But it's kind of like, Hadrian, like, a lot of stuff's gonna happen. Like, this is not gonna be a big deal to you in 400 years. Some things will be a big deal to you in 400 years. Some of the stuff was important. Obviously, there was a ton of crazy foreshadowing, which I know Ruocchio says it's not actually that hard. Yeah, Ruocchio, we understand that it's not hard to put in foreshadowing. The part that we find impressive is that we don't catch it beforehand. Like, the part that makes a crazy amount of foreshadowing is, like, reading things and being like, how did I not see this coming? When it's like, he's told us. Anyway, After that, I read The Price of Spring by Daniel Abraham, finishing up the Long Price Quartet. So now the sci-fi rogue, Pete, Anitha, and Alan will not try and kill me. The first time I recorded this, I forgot about Pete and said, I know I'm forgetting someone. And then I realized after it was Pete, so now I can remember him. Very consistent series, in my opinion. Shadow and Summer was my least favorite, but I still gave it like an 8 point something. Excellent character work and character relationships. I will say Price of Spring is not my favorite. I think Betrayal in Winter is, but I also like An Autumn War more than Price of Spring, even though it was still very good. I think there is an element that's driving the conflict that is kind of not as big of a deal as the book makes you think it is, and kind of just like tries to not let you consider that. The actual resolution ended up being really good. It's funny, I read the last chapter and I was like, what a great like final image to end on, and then there was an epilogue and I was really worried because it's like you're not going to get as good of a final scene, and then it got an even better final scene. And then I read The Player of Games by Ian Banks, first Ian Banks book. Also really like this was the University Book Club book. Set in a utopia that's like a true utopia that feels pessimistic. Really interesting setting. It's worth noting, when I saw Player of Games, I was like, oh, so it's going to be like game theory or like mind games. No, it's literally Player of Games, like chess, Settlers of Catan. Like, this dude would go to Tabletop Club and crush you all, SFU people. Like, Twilight Imperium, this dude would wreck you at Twilight Imperium. Isaac, if you're watching this, you know how Kai always beats you at Twilight Imperium? Gerja, he would wreck you all at Twilight Imperium, and you'd get really frustrated because every time you'd be, haven't even played Twilight Imperium with these people. A bunch of them also have played Twilight Imperium, and I've heard about it. And the DM for my D&D campaign always wins, and he always convinces the new people that he's not a threat, and that like Isaac is the real threat, and then wins. So, anyway, I did think part one of this was distinctly less interesting than the others. But it was still like, I wasn't like not enjoying it, but it was going to be like a 7 point something, and then the rest was really good, so it ended up being an 8 point something. It was pretty page turny. There was an ending that revealed something about like the frame narrative. I'm not a huge fan of this frame narrative. I just don't think it works that well. It's something that I think a lot of the time I really like, but it adds an ambiguity that I think somewhat cheapened it for me. So, still, though, I like the characters. The plot was really compelling. I thought he did a really good job for the games. One of the other people in the book club said he thought the games could have been more detailed. I actually thought it was exactly the right amount of detail, where it had me focused on the emotional beats of the game and not trying to explain to me the rules. I think trying to explain the rules could have gotten tedious for me. But I was like reading the games, I was like very compelled because it does. Ian Banks does a very good job of connecting the outcome of the game with the emotional journey of the character. Anyway, next, also on audio, I reread Dune. Really liked the audio for this. It was weird that like every once in a while it would just be only Simon Vance and then it would be a graphic audio. Dune is obviously excellent. I gave this like an 8.4. Price of Spring was probably 8.5. Empire of Silence and this are both 8.8. Only thing that holds this back from being higher is Baron Harkonnen is so over the top. And if I'm phrasing this diplomatically, the traits he gives the Baron to try and make him seem more despicable did not age well. But even aside from that, I just don't. The Baron scenes just come across to me as extremely over the top. That being said, I want to praise something like, people praise the Fremen as a really well-written culture, which is true. They deserve that. I think, like, the people who aren't Fremen, like the Bene Gesserit, and just the people living in, like, in this ducal system, like this, with, like, dukes and barons, and just the world. Like, the people feel like they're in this world. The way they think about things is so distinct to the Dune world. And I think the characters' internal monologue and their values add to the sense that this is 10,000 years in the future and its own built society that is, like, very different from our own. And it's just also well plotted. Like, it does a really effective job at throwing you right into the narrative. I think Frank Herbert is amazing at framing dialogue. I don't think, like, the actual words on the dialogue are what makes the conversation so compelling. It's, like, how he frames it with the POV hopping and the different, like, perspectives. Just really excellent. And then, continuing on the sci-fi. This month I read more sci-fi than fantasy. I don't know, like, how many times I've done that ever. Probably not very many. But I then, on my Kobo, went on vacation and binged the Vorkosigan Saga. Only going to talk about the ones I did in March here, which was Barrier, Warrior's Apprentice, The Vor Game, and Setaganda, all by Lewis McMaster Bujold. And the scores for those were 9, 9.3, and then I think 8.7 or 8.8 and 8.5. Incredible series. Gonna have a video about it. Warrior's Apprentice is my book of the month. Easily second favorite book of the year as of the end of March. Hint, it's not. It got passed in April. Warrior's Apprentice, I'm gonna mostly talk. I'll talk about all of them briefly. Barrier, I liked about as much as Shards of Honor. Most people like it more. I think it was more unique, and I think distinctive in the source of conflict and its emotional beats. But I don't know if I enjoyed the first third as much as I enjoyed the first third of Shards of Honor. So those average out pretty evenly. Extremely good character work. Yeah. Warrior's Apprentice was my favorite of the ones I read in March. It was just one of the most fun books I've read, like in terms of humor, dialogue, pacing, and just like what the plot was. Like, I was just grinning. I had a shit-eating grin on my face. And I wanted to tell everyone around me, like, what was happening. I was like, wait, listen. So Miles, he just did this. That's how, like, excited it made me and how much of a good time I was having. And then shit got real quick. And it really goes from, holy crap, I'm having a great time. And it was like a serious story. It was just a serious story where I was having a great time to, oh, no, that's, and it really, like, did a heel turn on me. And it hurt. And then Vor Game I thought was also excellent. Did feel slightly less tight than Warrior's Apprentice, where, like, the two halves of it were a bit disjointed. And then Setaganda just felt more like a side quest. Like, it felt more like a standalone. It was a well-done standalone with really well-done characters, plotting, writing, and dialogue, and setting. Because Bujold's just kind of good at everything, as far as I can tell. But I didn't like those two as much as Barrier and The Warrior's Apprentice, which were brilliant. But you will be hearing more from me about the Vorkosigan Saga. So, let me know if you have read any of these, or if they are on your plans, and if you have read them, do you think I'm insane, or do you agree? Always love to read the comments. If there wasn't comments, I probably wouldn't be doing this, and it's what makes it a fun hobby that I do. So, thanks everyone, and have a good day.